Welcome back to another edition. Are you and your partner really aligned when it comes to finances? Do you rarely experience conflicts around money? And if this is the case, you might have achieved financial intimacy in your relationship. Financial intimacy goes well beyond merely sharing financial information, sharing your balance sheet, sharing your retirement accounts. That's a start, but that is not the full experience of financial intimacy. Financial intimacy involves feeling safe and comfortable discussing any money-related topic with your partner. Now, this type of intimacy really requires a lot of vulnerability, honesty, and being forthcoming with your feelings, your beliefs, your needs, and your behaviors around money. Listeners to this podcast will understand that, of course, we all have feelings about money. That's a one word feeling. So often we transpose feelings with thoughts. We'll ask somebody, what are you feeling about this? And you get a whole sentence about what they're thinking about it. So financial intimacy begins with being honest about the feelings I'm having, fear, happiness, joy, hurt, anger, whatever those feelings are. There's a lot of feelings. Our beliefs around money can be our money scripts. This is what I believe. I deserve money. I don't deserve money. If I didn't save money, I'd be a nervous wreck. All the host of money scripts. And in the research that we did in the early days, we found that most people had 50 to 200 money scripts, beliefs about money, operating 24/7. And usually subconscious until we kind of dig in and unpack everything. Something else that's typically hard for me is knowing what are my needs? What do I need? Now, maybe around money I can be a little bit clearer than what my emotional needs are. But what do I need around money? How can money support me? Not necessarily your partner. This is about being vulnerable about you. What are your needs about money? And your behaviors about money. And probably your partner is very well aware of your behaviors about money. But maybe not all of them. And this can get into holding secrets, financial infidelity, and disclosing, well, here's what I'm doing. Here's the spending I don't want you to know about. Here's the saving I don't want you to know about. Here's the extra income I don't want you to know about. Here's the debt I don't want you to know about. Here's who I'm giving to that I don't want you to know about. All of those things belong in financial infidelity. So it may come as no shock to you that most couples don't have true financial intimacy. And something that I've never really delved into before that I recently did a webinar on for the Financial Therapy Association is what I'm terming faux financial intimacy. Faux, F-A-U-X, as in false. And this is where one partner avoids discussing money to avoid tension and conflict. So it's keeping the peace, not rocking the boat. Yes, I agree with my partner on this, or I certainly don't raise any disagreements. And the other partner could say, yeah, we have financial intimacy, I guess, because we never argue about money and we get along just fine. And the other partner's just going along to get along. Faux financial intimacy. So the lack of openness, the lack of vulnerability around this can stem from past experiences. Maybe one partner's opinions were disregarded, minimized, invalidated. It probably goes way back to childhood when the partner learned this type of survival mechanism, that it's just best not to be seen to survive. So in this regard, a person probably has to a couple has to go from the faux financial intimacy to full-on conflict. And then from the conflict back to what is, or not back, onto what is really financial intimacy. So I would suggest, and I think most listeners of this podcast would believe, that financial intimacy is an essential aspect of a healthy romantic relationship. But this is so routinely overlooked by therapists when they're talking about other forms of intimacy, like emotional, spiritual, physical. Not too long ago, I was at a conference, and a therapist brought up all sorts of intimacies. I actually think it was a therapist that specialized in sexual issues, and rattled them off, but not one mention of financial intimacy. And then I found, when I was doing a little research on this, a list of, this is in marriage.com, what is intimacy and 12 types of intimacy in a relationship. Oh, I figured, well, if we're going to list 12 types, certainly financial must be in one of them. Well, they talked about intellectual intimacy, emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, sexual intimacy. Then they came up with some others: understanding your partner intimacy, mutual respect intimacy, communication intimacy, vulnerability, trust, intimacy between spouses, and I'm just not sure exactly what they're meaning by that. Passion and independence. Anyway, I think a lot of these are pretty stretched to come up with intimacies. But my point, there's not anything mentioned about financial intimacy. So what is financial intimacy? Ed Combs, who's an author of a great book called The Healthy Love and Money Way, has probably one of the best definitions of financial intimacy that I've come across. In the book, he says financial intimacy begins with a basic level of honesty. And he would say, this is like sharing the financial information with one another, the balance sheets, what we talked about in the opening of the podcast. But he goes on from there. That's a start, but it is not it. He says, however, financial intimacy goes a lot deeper than that. It also includes feelings, beliefs, and behaviors around money. When a couple is financially intimate, they feel safe and comfortable talking to their partner about any topic about money. So, creating financial intimacy, and you could, of course, argue any intimacy, but creating financial intimacy requires vulnerability. Ed didn't say that in his definition, but that's what he's talking about, creating vulnerability. Now, many of you, I'm sure, are aware of Brené Brown. She is a renowned researcher on shame and vulnerability. And recently, I listened to a few episodes that were recommended to me by a friend on Atlas. I forget the complete name, but it's a series on Netflix. And just fascinating. When I listen to Brené Brown, who's famous for her TED Talks on vulnerability and shame, it's like I want to stop the video every other sentence because it's just rich. She pours so much research and knowledge into what she says. And she has a quote on vulnerability that I especially like. She says there can be no intimacy, emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, physical intimacy. Now, Brené doesn't say anything about financial intimacy. And this quote comes from, I think, around 2012. So I would add to that financial intimacy. So there can be no intimacy, emotional, spiritual, physical, or financial, my words, without vulnerability. It's about being honest with how we feel, about our fears, about what we need, asking for what we need. Vulnerability is a glue that holds intimate relationships together. Anytime that I listen to Brené talk on vulnerability or read any of her stuff, my emotional reaction is, oh, wow, yes, I want to be vulnerable. This is awesome stuff. And then I have opportunities to be vulnerable, and I either recoil from them, I withdraw, or I take a risk to be vulnerable and afterwards wonder, why did I do that? Vulnerability is really cool. I mean, vulnerability, I think there's some research somewhere that say that vulnerability is one of the top qualities needed by any CEO. But it is a rare commodity because with vulnerability is the chance of really getting hurt. And that's why it is so difficult. When both partners to a romantic relationship can be financially intimate with each other, that's scary stuff. That takes a lot of work to get to. And I'm going to suggest that partners that are financially intimate are probably already or well on their way to being intimate emotionally and spiritually and physically and in any other way. So when financial intimacy is achieved, they can work together to achieve their financial goals, whether it's saving money, paying off debt, or planning for the future. Whatever it is, they can they can share all of that, and why they will not be in 100% agreement on everything. They have the tools by creating financial intimacy to deal with them, to fully hear the other, to consider them, to work out creative ways to make sure that each partner is getting what they need. So this is just not easy. To create intimacy of any kind means learning new communication skills, because words matter. Often for a couple, it probably means getting some mentorship, some guidance from a third party, but it's a very intentional. We do not read a book. You do not listen to a podcast such as this and get the tools needed to create financial intimacy and the vulnerability that goes with it. It is heavily experiential. And it takes a lot of intentionality, a lot of focus to build vulnerability when it comes to financial matters. I think this can be really true for a money vigilant. That is a category of money scripts, where a money vigilant doesn't like debt, has a hard time spending, can be pretty easy for them to save. That's a category that often will have money. But one of the big ways you can recognize somebody with money vigilance is they are very secretive, tend to be very secretive around their money. You don't talk about money to very many people, and that can absolutely include your partner. It's something that is not discussed. So for that particular individual, it can be especially frightening, especially scary to start to open up and talking about their money, what they think, feel, and believe about their money. Now, at about this point, you may be thinking, well, Rick, that's the impossible dream in my relationship. Or that isn't even a road that I feel is a possibility to go down with my partner. And I get that. I think anybody that is in a romantic partnership sooner or later experiences some resistance to bringing up their feelings or a conversation. So it makes perfect sense that you feel that in the current state of how you are both relating to money. The chances are that you've had the same conversation with the same outcome over and over and over. You start into it. One partner says this, the other partner says that, the other partner reacts to that and says this, the other partner says that. It escalates until you both walk away, you both shut down, or in some way it ends without any resolution. So what do you do when you're in that type of dance? I think one of the first steps in a partnership toward building new communication skills, toward inching toward vulnerability, is to focus on your reactions and feelings when the topic of money arises. focusing on what's going on with you when your partner says or does something that causes an immediate reaction in you to where you're right back at them. And typically the feeling, it's not a feeling, the thought that we have is that if my partner would just change, this wouldn't be happening. This is pretty easy to fix. Would you stop doing this? Would you start doing that? So learning to focus instead what is going on in me right now as I listen to my partner doing this. And this can take some help doing this. Therapists that help couples gain new communication skills may call this practicing a U-turn. And a U-turn, again, is when you or your partner says or does something that is triggering, but mostly we're focusing on your partner. You don't respond. You don't respond. And you turn your intention inward to what you're thinking or feeling. And it helps to have a third party there that can help the other partner just remain quiet at this moment, or listen to the processing that you're doing as you are focusing on what just came up in me. What am I feeling in my body? Where? What are the emotions that I'm feeling? What are the thoughts that I'm thinking? So when both partners start to learn how to keep the focus on what's happening within them, getting curious about what's happening within them, the dance of conflict is going to de-escalate. But it takes focusing the interior rather than what they're doing to me. They made me feel this way. Focusing on our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, rather than spewing them out in an instant and reacting, is going to give a huge amount of insight and really help de-escalate things. So when you can focus on articulating to each other what's going on within you, you can start to talk about what your hopes and fears are with your reaction. When you do this, when you say that, what are you hoping that this is going to produce for you? Not in changing them, but what are your hopes that this is going to change for you? How is reacting like that going to impact you and get what you're hoping for? What is it that you're hoping for? And then the fear. Well, if I don't react this way, if I don't say that, what's my fear around what is going to happen? What's my fear if that hope isn't obtained? And when you can get to a place that you can listen to each other's hopes and fears, oftentimes you find out that you're both on the same page. A next step in this, when things do de-escalate and you can start to hear really what's under all this, really what your partner is hoping for, and you discover, at the very bottom of this, we're hoping for more connection with each other, or whatever it is. We're going about it very different ways. Then you can start to have more courageous conversations. And these are discussions that really require honesty, vulnerability, a willingness to address the difficult topics. And having these discussions can be really challenging, especially at first. They can be downright scary, but they're really crucial if we want to build financial intimacy. And again, it can be so helpful to have a third party there helping with these conversations, to help keep them on track and to help each partner focusing on themselves. So basically, achieving financial intimacy requires a lot of openness, way more than saying, here's my balance sheet, or here's a behavior that I've been hiding from you. It really needs that super honest communication about money, vulnerability, that willingness to address these really difficult topics that we've been throwing under the rug, creating a faux intimacy. So it can really be a challenge. It can really be difficult to break away from these patterns. But the benefits are huge. And the benefits of creating financial intimacy is definitely reduce stress within yourself, within the relationship, and better financial decision making. Doing this actually has a financial component to it. Actually can help increase wealth. Now, that is not necessarily the goal, but it is absolutely a component of increasing a financial wealth and increasing more money that supports both of your goals and desires and makes life more meaningful. Helps make life a life that has meaning in it because it's supported by your finances. So I hope this was insightful. I do have a book that I wrote in 2023, co-authored with Deb Kaplan, called Coupleship Inc. From Financial Conflict to Financial Intimacy. It's available on Amazon, and it's a do-it-yourself book, a do-it-yourself financial therapy book for couples. And it does have an internal family systems bent to it. So it's really the only book of its kind right now on the market. And we'll go over a number of things I've talked about, but in much more depth. You could also reach out to an IFIO therapist, Intimacy from the Inside Out. They can help start to build intimacy, and financial therapists can also help with this. It's really critical, can be really critical to your financial health and the financial health of your partnership. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.